This is my rainbow in the sky scarf, complete with pom-pom clouds, if you will. I think that this video is more of a story time than it is a tutorial. However, I will be showing you how to make this scarf, and also I'll provide some links to make sure that you can complete it. But I guess today I'm kind of sharing the journey of this scarf. This is the sketch that I made about 2 months ago. And normally when I sketch something, it's usually completed within a couple days, but it literally wound up being a 2-month project for a pretty basic scarf. And let me go ahead and walk you through that. As you can see, the scarf, it turned out wonderful. It looks very close to how I drew it. I am happy. I really like the cloud, the pom-pom clouds, if you will. And see that blue? I wanted to use a very specific shade of blue. Because to me, that blue really represented the sky. And of course, I wanted my rainbow pattern. And normally I will use any type of yarn, any brand. I'll mix brands. But see these stripes? I wanted to make sure that they were all uniform. It was important to me that each of the stripes was the exact same width and height. And so for that reason, I only used one brand of yarn for the stripes. And I went with Big Twist from Joann's. And the reason I chose Big Twist really is just because I had every rainbow color that I needed. I had Roy G. Biv in Big Twist. And so that is the brand that I went with. And I was trying to decide, like I said, I knew I wanted it an exact shade of blue. And so when I looked through my yarn stash, I did come across a Big Twist. I actually have several colors in blue, but I came across a particular blue. I believe the color is cornflower, if I'm not mistaken. And so I was determined to use cornflower to make my scarf. This purple color is my waste yarn. And then as you can see, here is the cornflower blue in Big Twist. And I play yarn chicken a lot, but I felt pretty confident that I had just enough yarn in order to complete my scarf. So everything started out the way it always does. I did I cast on with the waste yarn, and I think I did about 6 rows total of waste yarn. And then after that, I started with the blue. And I did pay attention to my count because I wanted the scarf to look really uniform. So I did pay attention. This was when the counter still worked on my machine. So this was before I added the digital counter. And once I had the right amount for blue, I started on with the rainbow colors. And I did 3 rows per rainbow color. I didn't use indigo, but I did use all the other colors. And then look what happened. I was working along on my scarf, and I got down to this little piddly amount of yarn, and I hadn't finished yet. And I did not have another skein of this shade of blue in my stash. I usually don't keep more than 1 skein per shade. And let me show you how close I was to finishing. I made it to 238 rows. And as you can see, I was on the last bit of blue, and I only needed to make it to 257, but I did not. So what I did is I left my work on my machine, and I immediately went to Joann, and I placed an order for another skein of this blue with the thought that in about a week, maybe 7 to 10 days, I would be able to complete this project and go ahead and get the video out to you. And in the meantime, I pulled out my 40 needle machine and I started working on other smaller projects that I also had written down. I was very interested in making a plushie, and I did make an owl. Also, I made this long scarf. I believe, yeah, this is my 8-foot long scarf. And I have tutorials for both of these on the channel. I'll link to those in the description box. And also on the 40 needle machine, I made a couple of these cute pumpkins. They were supposed to be for Thanksgiving. I made them and then forgot to actually put them out on the table, but I do have those for next Thanksgiving. Well, a lot of time passed, over a week, and Joanne told me that my order would be delayed. And so what I wound up doing, because I wanted to use my 48 needle machine again, is I did some research and I found out that I could get some circular knitting needles, and that I could use those needles to remove my work. Now, I am not a knitter. I am not a hand knitter. I'm actually a crocheter. So this was all new to me, but I just, I had a feeling that there was probably some way that I could get my work off of the machine and preserve it until I got my new skein. So I was glad to find out that I could just put a stopper on the one end of the circular knitting needles, and then with the other end, I was able to pick my work off of the machine stitch by stitch. I wind up hearing from Joanne again in an email. This time, I'm not sure how many days had passed. I feel like maybe it was almost 2 weeks, but I did get a confirmation email that my cornflower blue yarn had shipped out. You know how they send you, and I checked the tracking, and you know how you get that first scan? Basically that it's the package that's been scanned, that it's ready to be picked up or, by USPS. And so it had that scan. And so I figured that I was probably only looking at about, maybe 4 or 5 days more before I would get the yarn. But what happened is that rolled up scarf on the circular knitting needles, it wound up just being in this box for a very long time, because the scan, there was never any more scans on the tracking. That I don't think that the item actually ever made its way to the carrier. And so after 10 more days of waiting for that scan, I just went ahead and looked in my stash and decided that I would use another shade of blue. I don't know why it was so important to me to use that shade, but it just seemed like it was perfect. But I did wind up switching to I Love This yarn in the soft blue color. And I don't know, it's not the same, but once I switched to that color, I just went ahead and completely remade the scarf, because it was a kind of a close match, but as you can see, it wasn't close enough. You would have been able to tell that these are two different shades of blue. And so I did completely remake it, and I contacted Joanne and I just had them cancel the order, because I'm not sure. I don't usually have problems with them, but mistakes do happen. So I was able to finish the scarf. I will link to a tutorial that shows you how to make a scarf. Not this exact scarf, but a similar one. As you can see, I put the pom-poms, one in the center and one on each end of the edge of both edges of the scarf. And this finish is the one I do on almost every scarf. It's with a crochet hook. And so again, I will link a video for you if you need to know exactly how to do this finish. And one thing I did do is I snipped off the elastic, because it showed, it was hanging, the pom-pom was dangling and you could see the elastic, and I didn't like that. And so I did snip off the elastic before sewing it on to the scarf. Thank you for listening to my story time about my rainbow scarf in the sky, and I'll see you in the next video.